Mic off. Mic on.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? This is Eric, and I'm here to stream Distant Worlds for you all today, though I think we have a little title issue that hopefully will get resolved shortly. It seems to think I'm still streaming Flashpoint campaigns. Alright, so, welcome everyone. Thanks for your interest in Distant Worlds 2. I appreciate you all being here today. The purpose of this stream is to give you a preview of the Quameno and Gazurian DLC. You know, we had another stream earlier this month where I covered the Discovery Update. I'm going to mention a few things that we've fixed since the Discovery Update and talk about mainly just the Quameno and Gazurian DLC to give you a preview of the Quameno, of the Gizureans. It's all coming out on September 7th. And everything that's going to be involved in that. So here we go. First off, let me give you a little preview of what the Quameno and Gazurians look like. So let's start with the Quameno. And we have here an illustration of a Quameno world. They like to live on these types of aquatic worlds. They got some Quameno ships lifting off from the planet's surface. And that's a Quameno city down there. They are sort of an amphibian race. And over here we have some of those same types of ships actually exiting the planet, heading out into space. And here we have an example of the full ship set for the Quameno. So if you take a look here, you can see at the top the small, large, and medium spaceports. Then some of the military ships, destroyer, cruiser, battleship, carrier, the troop transports, some of the civilian ships, and some of the smaller military ships at the bottom right. And we'll talk quite a lot about what the Quameno bring to the table and why they are different than a lot of the other factions that you may have played before. Let's switch over real quick to take a look at the Gizureans, and then we'll dive into the game and take a look at both in-game. So this is a Gazurian world, which looks a little bit different than a Quameno world. The Gizureans are mostly a desert world-dwelling species, and they have a very rapid growth rate and a sort of hive mentality. They are legion, as it were. And this is an illustration of some of those Gazurian ships. That's a Gazurian carrier in the center, leaving the planet. You can see their ships are a bit more tall than some of the other faction ships, which tend to be longer or wider, but they explore that third dimension a bit more. And here's an example of their full ship set, again with the spaceports up at the top, some of the military ships below in the row below that, and some of the civilian ships, and some of the smallest military ships at the bottom right. And what you'll find with the Quameno ships, they have a lot of dependence on energy and energy fields, shield-like fields, because they're very, very good at that. They're good at all research in general. We'll go into them in a sec. With the Gizureans, they have the special hex armor, and they have the ability to do more with fighters than some other factions do. So really, when you run into one of their fleets, there's always more of them than you might want to run into. So let's take a look in-game at what they look like. So we'll start out with the Gizureans here, and we'll talk through some of the things that make them special. And again, this is releasing as a DLC, just like the Eternity DLC. This is a DLC releasing on September 7th, and we've been working all through the summer to improve the base game. We released the Discovery Update, which contained a lot of additional free content and a lot of improvements to some of the existing game content. It also made a lot of improvements to and fixes to all kinds of gameplay. And I'll just briefly mention there was one issue that did get into the Discovery Update with related to memory usage, which we have fixed since then, and there's going to be another small official update going out, I expect, day after tomorrow, this Friday, which will be the final official version that goes along with this DLC. But I covered in a previous stream the addition of the Ancient Guardian Vaults, the expanded Hive Menace with lots of additional Hive ships and a different logic for how they wake up, the expanded pirates and with pirate cruisers and such. That's all in the base game. That's not DLC specific, but it all ties in to some of the things that we did with the DLC, and it's a way that I think some of the DLC work helped improve the base game. So let's take a look at the Gizureans here. I'm just going to be looking to the side from now time to time because that's where I actually have my chat window here. So if you all have questions for me, I'll periodically look over there and try to answer them. So Gizureans, a lot of people remember them from Distant Worlds 1 as being the fastest growing faction in the galaxy, and they still are that. But they're less, they're an insectoid faction like the Beskara, but they're less, I guess I would say evil than the Beskara. They're more just a force of nature. They grow and they grow and they grow, and because they grow, they devour and consume. And they're kind of ruthless about it, but they're not necessarily, evil about it per se. It's just a fact of their life that they need to consume a lot in order to grow. So you can see that they're very aggressive, they're pretty reckless, they have the highest reproduction rate in the game, they tend to be pretty adventurous with migration and pretty resistant to assimilation, and they're focused on sandy deserts, rocky deserts, desert savannas, and volcanic planets. Not very good at living on oceanic planets. They're not good at research or diplomacy particularly. They're pretty good at construction and troop research, though. They're very good, actually, at reverse engineering things, even though they themselves aren't as good at coming up with things to begin with. So they have certain advantages. If they get access to someone else's ship or an ancient ship or station of some kind, they can reverse engineer it and get more boosts to their tech from doing that process than most factions would. So it's sort of in your interest as playing as the Gazurian. If you can capture ships or you just find them for salvage, that you retire them at your spaceports and try to boost your technology that way. They're also just really good at repairing their own ships as a result. And they have a pretty good chance of generating new admirals and generals. So when we talk about some of the special features, one of the things that we've been doing with these new factions as compared to the base factions, which we're still in the process of revisiting, is we heard from a lot of folks that they wanted more differentiation. So when we look at the Gizureans and the Quameno, you're going to see a lot of special features for these different factions that help their gameplay be different. The first I was already mentioning is that they get additional tech boosts when salvaging or retiring ships. The second is a choice you have whenever you conquer a planet as the Gizureans. This feeds into another one of their abilities below. You have a chance to scour it. You can choose this as a player, whether you want to do it or not when you conquer a planet. If you conquer a planet and scour it, you immediately remove 10% of that planet's population. You basically eaten them. And you reduce its development level to 0. And you get a little happiness penalty on that planet, and it damages your reputation a bit. But instead of getting 1 tech breakthrough for conquering a planet, you'll now get 2. You'll get a big boost in resources, and it'll give you a boost for Gazurian population growth throughout your entire empire. So you start off with the best population growth in the whole galaxy. This will boost you even more if you're scouring worlds. If we then skip down to breeding world, we'll see that if you have a world with species other than Gizureans, you can set them to exterminate as a population policy. And when you do that in a Gazurian empire, that will be considered a breeding world. So basically you're using these other populations to feed and, lay your eggs in and all that type of stuff. However you want to imagine that with these gigantic sort of space murder hornets that these guys are. And the end result is that'll exterminate the population on that planet just as if you were normally exterminating them, but you'll get the benefit, along with the penalties that come with extermination as a population policy, but you'll get the benefit that it will once again boost your empire-wide population growth as the Gizureans, and if you have multiple breeding worlds, you'll get that boost stacking multiple times. So if you get on a real roll with the Gizureans, and setting up breeding worlds and scouring worlds, you can drive your growth rate pretty stratospheric, at least for certain periods of time. You also have, one of the things with Gizureans is by default they don't actually start out with a hive mind. They had one once, that's to be revealed by playing through their story as to why they don't start out with one by default, but they have what's called a cell hegemony, which is a more limited form of collective consciousness. And so they still also have these internecine tribal conflicts. They have rivalries, and that comes up in the game as an event that periodically 2 of your characters will engage in a power struggle. You'll have to choose which one wins. The one that wins will actually gain some benefits from that in terms of skills and traits. The other one is gone. It's a good way, if you're lucky, to eliminate bad characters for a gain, but sometimes the choices aren't easy. You can also have a full-on tribal conflict, which can give you a happiness penalty, though you get a temporary boost to your growth rate again. You get some unique special targeting components that are Gazurian only, that allow you to increase your targeting accuracy for every ship you have in your fleet. So they really do well with larger fleets. If they can bring a large fleet and have built their designs with these swarm targeting systems, and they can be extremely accurate in terms of attacking the enemy. They've got some unique traits for their leaders and their generals. They start out with missile weapons and pulse weapons, some basic countermeasures, starship maneuvering and ground combat. And let's talk about their unique techs a little bit. So they start with what are called these hive hangars, and these are like your normal fighter hangars, except that they can build and repair fighters significantly faster. And we've done work through the Discovery Update in improving fighter behavior and management in fleets and on ships and on planets and all that. So fighters, when they're regenerated, they won't tend to go out in little penny packets of one fighter at a time. They'll tend to at least form a flight of, let's say, 4, 5, 6 fighters and attack. So the fact that they can regenerate pretty quickly means that they can actually be pretty effective. So you'll want to have those hangars typically on your fleets as the Gizureans. They've also got this hex armor, which is a smaller armor component. It's a size 8 versus a size 10 compared to the normal armors, but it has a slightly higher rating. So it gives them a net advantage in terms of their ship designs to have this hex armor researched and put onto their ships. And they also get these hive fighter bases. Now these are, of all the factions in the game, they get access to planetary fighter bases sooner than anyone else, by quite a bit. And just like their hangars, their fighter bases are better at rebuilding and repairing fighters than any of the other factions' bases are. So if you come to a Gazurian planet, even quite early in the game, you shouldn't be surprised if a whole bunch of Gazurian fighters rise up to meet you. If you encounter a Gazurian fleet, chances are they're going to have a lot of fighters coming out of that fleet, along with a lot of ships and a pretty large fleet. So let's talk about their victory conditions. So their victory conditions are fairly growth and military oriented. They want to build the most military ships, have the most colonies, spend the most time at war, and capture the most ships and bases. And the capturing, of course, is very synergistic with them, with the retiring and the salvaging, boosting their own tech. Their base default government is a cell hegemony, that they're allowed to be a cell hegemony, feudalism, or a republic. They have a decently decent infantry to start with, and they don't. This is one of the things about the Gizureans. They don't really get along with just about anyone. A little bit better with the insectoid factions, but they're not exactly friendly with just about anyone. Just about everyone else to them is a source of food and resources to feed their growth. So that's the quick summary on the Gizureans. And I'll just pop over to the Quameno here, who are a little bit the opposite of the Gizureans. They don't reproduce particularly quickly, and they like to keep to themselves rather than being very expansionist. They're more isolationist. They're very introverted, and they tend to focus on research and science, and they tend to be pretty single-minded about it. Their default government is called a geniocracy, and when you're playing as a geniocracy, you can think of it as if they had a wartime economy, but instead of it being focused on war at the exclusion of everything else, like everything else is either minimally available or rationed, they're doing that for science and research and puzzle solving of various kinds. They're very, very drawn to figuring out the mysteries of the universe, especially from a puzzle perspective. They are very focused on a particular way of thinking of the scientific process, and they're not really at their best when they're distracted from that, so they don't do as well with constant exposure to other factions, especially within their own worlds. So we'll talk through this a bit. They're a pretty passive race. They don't tend to be aggressive. They tend to be cautious. They're very dependable, though, once they have committed to something. They don't tend to migrate very much. They're a little bit resistant to assimilation, again, because they have a very particular way of doing things. They tend to prefer mangrove forests, marshy swamps, oceans, deep oceans, and ice tundras. And they start out with the biggest all-research bonus in the game. Now, I don't know how many of you know about the all-research bonus, but this is much more powerful than the other research bonuses. The other research bonuses apply strictly to meeting the research thresholds within that subtree of the research tree, and to making the projects within that subtree, let's say for reactors or troops or whatever, less expensive. All research does that for everything, but it also applies to your research output. It effectively acts as like a double multiplier. So when you've got all research plus 20%, you've effectively already got a 20% bonus to all research areas. You've also got a 20% bonus, to your output and to the project cost. And so the end result of this is it's a very powerful bonus. When you combine this with their geniocracy government, which gives them another plus 20% all research, they start out with a 40% bonus to research in all areas. And they start out with an additional 20% on reactor research, which just across the whole research tree, if your goal is to complete the research tree and get some of those advanced techs as quickly as you can, the Quameno are an excellent way to do that. They're by far the best faction at just pure research in the game. It does come with drawbacks. They're not very good at diplomacy. They're not very good at espionage. They're not particularly interested in trade. They don't have a lot of ambassadors, admirals, or generals, though they do generate a lot of scientists. And when you look at some of their special features, these also call out sort of part of what makes them unique. They have alien distractions, which mean that whenever you sign a treaty with another faction, with the exception of pirates, when you sign a treaty with another faction, you're going to get a slight increase in happiness, but a big penalty for your research. And again, the Quameno are going to basically turn their focus away from their normal single-minded pursuit of their research, and they're going to start studying these new aliens they've encountered. And you may not necessarily want that, so it's a cost to consider when you're signing treaty. And they also have what's called integration studies. When you have an unassimilated non-Quameno population at one of your colonies, you're going to have to undertake what are called integration studies, and that has sort of a scaling penalty similar to alien distractions, just not usually as severe, unless you've got a lot of unassimilated populations compared to your assimilated Quameno populations. But again, it sort of messes with the Quameno mojo a bit. It makes them more distracted. It makes them a little bit out of their groove. So now we get to some of their things that are a little bit more bonus-oriented. So I'll get to the Transcendence Hub get back to that in a bit. But let's start with building the future. So if you build a new research station, that's a boost to your Empire happiness. If you find a new research location, you have a decent chance of getting a boost to any related tech whenever you discover a research location that's based on a particular bonus. when you start researching, when you get farther down the tech tree, and you start researching techs that are tech level 5 or greater, each time you complete one of those techs, you have a chance of getting a big boost to happiness and all research, because the Quameno as a civilization feel that they're getting close to solving a puzzle. They really like the idea of really getting to the end of a particular tech subtree, beelining to the end, and figuring out the answer to the question, the mystery that particular tech area poses. That can also give you bonus positive traits on your leaders and scientists. And the further you get into that tech tree past level 5, the increase the chance of this happening. And finally, if you get to the end of several tech trees and build what is their endgame facility, the Transcendence Hub, which lets them surpass their physical form and basically be functionally sort of immortal and just spending all their time researching instead of worrying about physical things, then you get a big boost in several ways. First off, a big happiness boost and a big tech boost. And if we go down here, you'll see they have a lot of leader traits and scientist traits related to research and their introversion, things like that, some of them that we haven't done before. They have one big penalty, which is that they can't do concurrent research. They can only research one research project at a time, period, because they're really quite focused on that. But if we look at their victory conditions, going back to the Transcendence Hub, one of your 4 victory conditions is to build the Transcendence Hub as a colony. One of your other victory conditions is to have the most completed research branches in the galaxy. In order to even get to the Transcendence Hub, you have to complete several research branches. So there are this idea of sort of using their benefits to solve some of the problems that their challenges create through research, and being more focused about getting to the end of research trees really pays off if you're trying to play the Quameno to win. And there's a couple of other things here. Have the fewest treaties in the galaxy, which is a bit of a challenge for them, but also reach 30% empire bonus in ancient knowledge. Now, some of you who may not have played much with the Discovery Update yet, you may not know, but the Discovery Update added some of these ancient Guardian Vaults from the ancient galaxy. They're there for everyone to find, though the Quameno have a few extras as part of their storyline and have a bit of a leg up in finding them. But each of these vaults gives you a boost in a new area called Ancient Knowledge. That Ancient Knowledge allows you to more easily open further vaults, but for the Quameno it's actually a victory condition as well. It'll just boost their progress towards winning the game. They start out with exploration scanners, robotic troops, ground combat, early torpedo weapons, early pulse weapons, and they have some unique techs. They have bubble shields, which are very good shields. How do they differ from other shields, from the standard shields? They have a higher shield resistance, meaning they have a bigger flat damage reduction than other typical shields. Now, again, damage reduction on shields doesn't get super high, so what this is mainly useful for, hello Mad Menon, what this is mainly useful for is when you're being attacked by some of the smaller weapons, or especially fighters and bombers. Bubble shields can really ward off a lot of damage from those types of things. For example, if the Gizureans come at you with a lot of fighters, the Quameno bubble shields are going to be pretty good at frustrating some of that fighter damage. They also get Nova Core reactors, which are the single best reactor in the game. That's their biggest single boosted tech. They get the Enigma Maze, which is a special facility that lets them test their leaders and their scientists to make sure that only the best are leading them in their geniocracy. So you can build that. That's sort of part of the the research tree, and it just gives you a boost to your leader and scientist quality. And then you have the Transcendence Hub, which I talked about as their end game, sort of, build this facility and win the game type of thing. They tend to like the Gizureans, humans, and Shandar, but because they're introverted, they're not, in love with anyone in particular. And they like the geocracy the most, and they can be democracy, monarchy, and geniocracy. Let's take a look at the geniocracy, and then I'll hop back for a sec to take a look at the Gazarian cell hegemony, which I forgot to review earlier. So the Quameno geniocracy, and you can see the description here, it's basically ruled by the most intelligent members of the society, but how do you tell who's the most intelligent and what do they rule? Well, the net result of this is you have, like I was saying, a government that is sort of like a wartime government, but it's all focused on research and science, and it puts other things aside. So penalties on mining, trade, colony income, troop recruitment and recovery, but a plus 20% bonus to all research, which is, again, a super powerful bonus because of how all research works compared to the other research bonuses. a geniocracy will not and cannot fund colony growth. So as a result of that, the Quameno will be one of the slowest growing factions in the game, if not the slowest in terms of population, versus the Gizureans being the fastest. But what they do instead is they fund research to the hilt. We have the ability in a geniocracy to spend a scientist. So if you crash one of your research projects, then you're immediately given the option to expend one of your scientists to immediately complete that project. So just to be sure you all understood that. So let's say you're researching a big project that's going to take a long time. If either one of your scientists gets lucky and institutes a natural break crash on it, or you pay for a crash, you can then expend a scientist and just complete that tech. Boom, done. The second thing is, you've probably all experienced that you can have what's called a critical research failure, where you're researching a tech and you get halfway done with it and suddenly you get a message, I'm sorry, our scientists were going down the wrong path, and suddenly you're back to 10% done, and it's a big long project, and that's painful. The Quameno playing geniocracy have an option to avoid that. If you get a critical research failure and you're playing a geniocracy, you can again expend a scientist, and it's your choice which scientist to expend. I usually take my worst one and say, here's your moment of glory. But you can expend a scientist, and instead of getting the critical research failure, you will instead crash the project and move it to at least 50% done. So those are two big ways that a geniocracy can accelerate or mitigate, things that would otherwise slow down research. And a geniocracy starts with research labs, improved sensors, and coordinated control. And the leader gets replaced from the pool of scientists when there's a leader change. Now let's take a quick look at the Gizureans. So the Gazurian cell hegemony, and this one I'm going to read the description a little bit on because it's perhaps not as obvious. So a cell hegemony is a form of government where the rulers are chosen based on their ability to share an empathic connection with groups of their citizens. Only those who are able to maintain such a connection are considered suitable for leadership. The society itself is divided into many groups that are able to share such limited connections, which are referred to as cells. These cells self-organize through their ability to form empathic bonds with each other and end up similar in character to a tribe. Within their cell, they are able to share feelings and impressions of thoughts and memories to a limited extent. Each cell is generally ruled by the member with the strongest connection, who becomes the hegemon of that cell. These hegemons then form a larger cell which makes decisions for the society. Usually the hegemons are able to form connections with one another, but not always as strongly as within their own cell. This council of hegemons then rules the cell hegemony based on their collective will and that of the various cells expressed through them. And a cell hegemony is in some ways a different form of hive mind, more limited in what it can share and more divided, but still based on the principle that these empathic connections are the best basis for overall unity and effective governments. In practice, the differences between cells and the hegemons result in more individualism than is found in a full hive mind, but also that makes them tend towards more oligarchy. Tekorioni, if you have a truly incompetent scientist and you have the automation turned on that manages the auto-firing, then it will still fire them. But you have to be very incompetent to trigger that automation, and if you're concerned about that, you can certainly turn that part of the automation off and just handle the firing of scientists entirely on your own. I will say, having played through as Quameno, I've never run into a situation, just because of their other bonuses for scientists, where I have a scientist auto-dismissed. I haven't actually seen that happen. I think there's scientists in general, it's sort of a choice between your really good scientist and your okay scientist, but not that great, in terms of who you want to expend. You'll see cell hegemony has quite a few bonuses. What it doesn't have is a research bonus, and you'll see these are, if you look at hive mind, these are sort of a normalized version of the hive mind's bonuses. They have a lot of the advantages of the hive mind. Their penalties the hive mind has aren't as severe. What they do have as far as other bonuses is they consume fewer luxury resources than other types of governments. They have a higher likelihood of characters with the inspiring presence trait being generated. The inspiring presence trait is one that if a character has it, it will gradually increase and boost the skills and traits of other characters at that same location, and a decreased chance of demoralizing characters who do the reverse, where they penalize the other characters at their location. They have a 30-year leader term. They start out with exploration scanners, improved sensors, and coordinated control. So that's in a nutshell the Gizureans and the Quameno. Now, because I played in my earlier stream where I was previewing the Discovery update, I played a bit of the Quameno. I'm going to start out with the Gizureans this time. So we are going to play as a Gazurian cell hegemony, just so we have a little bit more to show for people who have been looking forward to seeing some Gazurian gameplay. And I'll start with, just to give you a little idea of what I've got it set up as. Excuse me. Pardon me for that. I've got a 1,000-star galaxy, 8x8 sectors. I've just set the research visibility to all projects visible so that I can show you some of the later projects if I'd like to. I've left the others things here default. So I set the pirates to many instead of normal, just to make them a little more frequent, which I personally prefer. And I've got the Gizureans and the cell hegemony as the choice. And I've got, oh, I almost forgot here. Did I set, I'm going to set these guys to pre-warp tech level 0 just to speed things up a little bit, so we're not starting at full pre-warp, and I'll do the same for myself. And we'll start with 15 empires randomly generated. And one of the things from the Discovery update is we now have a choice, much more of a higher resolution choice of turning on and off different parts of the various game events and preset things. But I am just going to leave all that stuff on for now. So let's get started here. Yes, everything is on track for September 7th release of the DLC Rahan Bass. Yeah, these were two of the most popular playable factions in the original Distant Worlds, so we really didn't want to wait any longer to bring them into Distant Worlds 2. I think a lot of folks played these guys quite frequently in Distant Worlds 1, and I think partly because the sort of high growth playstyle and the high research playstyle are two very popular playstyles among 4X strategy game type players. And hopefully these folks will fulfill your expectation for those types of playstyles. Alright, so here we go. We're going to begin, and I'm just going to play this organically here along with you all. So we're going to play through this and we'll talk through things as they come up. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So we have our planet here, we have the ancient Gazurian holding pens, we've made a discovery. There's never been a better time to be a Gazurian. Though that may not be true. It might have been better in the distant past, we cannot say it with any certainty. Still, it is a very good time. We are on the cusp of traversing the great unknown, claiming all we find for ourselves. Our stories say that once we spread out among the stars, growing, expanding, multiplying, once we spread out among the stars, yep, all fled from our relentless, unstoppable expansion. There were so many of us, and that made us the greatest and the strongest. Still, the past haunts us. How did we end up reduced to living on a single planet, growing, always growing, and so finding ourselves short of space? What caused us to lose all that we once had? Did someone take it from us? They must be made to give it back. And were we once more? Each of us feels connected to the whole of Gazurian kind, but that connection seems wrong. Diminished, like muffled sounds heard through a wall. Where there should be voices, there is only silence. The secret of our former nature may be out there among the stars, and when we find that secret, we will know who to blame, and we will devour them. So we start out with the usual early warp field experiments and research labs, and a little bit of a boost to sensor research and scenery. Okay, and if we take a look here, we are the Gazurian Nexus, so that's who we are. And look at our Empire bonuses from all sources, and since we started as a cell hegemony, we get exploration scanners, improved sensors, and coordinated control. So we've got all kinds of things set up here. See, we're getting a penalty to all research from our race and our government. We're getting some boosts to other types of research. Penalties to diplomacy, but we're quite good at boarding and capturing things and defending them from capture. We're happy to stay at war for a while. We have good maintenance savings on our ships and troops. Sure, we'll build a small spaceport. And sure, let's build an escort so we can see what that looks like. And if we take a look at our characters here, we start out with our Overlord, where we have Agra Kelsu, who starts out, now this is interesting, we don't start out with any traits, but we do start out with 3 skills. They're actually, partly because our colony started with sensor research, they actually have a sensor research bonus that'll help us get our hive targeting sensors for our hive fleets pretty soon. Ship maintenance savings and troop recruitment rate, so Actually, pretty good bonuses for a Gazurian, and all of these will grow over time. They've got progress bars, so this is not fixed at a -1%. That just means it starts there. It will go positive pretty soon. And that's the only character we start with. Let's take a look at, I'm going to speed this up a little bit to ×2. Let's take a look at the research tree here. So it starts us off researching research labs. Because we start with a -15% penalty to research, it's probably not a terrible thing, but we'll probably go ahead and take the next hyperdrive immediately thereafter so that we can get out of our system. So we'll go over here to stable warp fields, and while we're here I'll just show you a couple things about the Gizureans. So we had talked about the hive fighters and hive hangers and the planetary bases. You'll notice these red markers here. The Gizureans get to skip the normal fighter tree up to this point, and instead they have this adjacent tree that has all the things they need from the base fighter tree, but it effectively costs them less to go through it. So if they research this one project, they get the command module, the hive hanger, the basic fighter, the basic bomber. They research this next one, they get the medium hanger, the light interceptor, light attack fighter, and light bomber, which would be all three of these projects normally for a normal faction for 2,400 cost in research, but for the Gazurians they get that all for 1,600 here. And then right off the first hive starfighter, so this is literally tech level 1. You're 1 tech level in, boom, you can already research a planetary fighter base. Instead of normally, you only get access to that higher up in the research tree here at tech level 3. So these are their fighter bases, which replenish their fighters, build them and replenish them faster. Same thing with their hangars, and that's an attractive route for us to take. Down here you'll see the hex armor. And again, it's a parallel path, so they don't have to go down the main armor path. Their hex armor path already includes the ion sheath armor as well, so they basically can ignore these, texts with the red markers on them. They don't need to go down that route. They can just go down their own route. So you'll see as a comparison, like hex armor by default size 8 with a rating of 80 versus your standard heavy armor is size 10 with a rating of 72. And if we take a look at the target tracking, you'll see up here the network targeting systems, the swarm targeting, which gives them effectively a normal targeting component like you'd get here, but it has this additional ability of extra targeting per fleet ship plus 1%. So if you have a fleet of 20 ships, instead of a 15% targeting bonus, that's a 35% targeting bonus, as long as all the ships have one of these network targeting systems installed on them. Okay. And Wraith, Stargate Atlantis, that was an interesting story, I agree. Definitely enjoyed the Stargate series. Okay, so we've done that. I'm going to speed things up here a little bit. And one of the things that of course happens pretty early on, and we're going to go through that part mostly on ×4 speed so you don't end up waiting too long for it, is we're going to have the process of finding. We started out already with skip drives, so our exploration ships are going across our system and trying to find sources, and the most important sources that we initially need to find is all the construction resources. Our planets need construction resources to maximize the growth rate of our population. They also demand luxury resources to maximize the development rate of our planets. And we need fuel resources for our ships to be able to move across the galaxy. So establishing first our construction resources so that we will not be hindered in growth or hindered in building new things, new stations, new ships is our first priority, along with fuel. After that, as many luxury resources as we can get to boost our development. Do they get the early hangar slots like the Ictarians? You mean on their ship hulls? Yeah, they have a pretty early ship hull that has some hangars on it. Let's take a quick look at that. So if we look here, you will see the Gazurian frigate has one hangar, just like the Ictarians. So you can run into, if you want to focus on the fighter path with Gazurians, you can certainly do that. And our advisors are suggesting that we build a mining station at a Kazlan source, and that is absolutely very, very important. In fact, we're going to go for both of those Kazlan sources. And we only have one construction ship now, but I don't want to do these in sequence. We have enough money. I'm going to go ahead and build another construction ship so that we can start building 2 mining stations at a time while we can afford it. We don't have much cash flow, but we have enough. We had a spy appear, and we completed our spaceport. So you can take a look here. It's a bit dark because it's on the dark side of the planet here, but you can see the Gazurian spaceport. Probably a little bit better view here is to watch this escort here being built on the light side. And if we take a look at the rest of these, you can see this is a luxury resource. This is a construction resource, but not one that we're short of right now, whereas Necrostone is a construction resource that we absolutely are short of. That's what the red border around it indicates. In the discovery update, we also, to help with manual planning of mining stations, and I should note we made a lot of AI improvements as well in the discovery update. I think the AI empires play much better, and they will play even better in this 1167 update that's coming out at the end of this week. But the basic idea with let me actually, if you want to take a close-in view of the station, what we can do is we can look here in the design screen. So this is what a Gazurian small spaceport looks like. You can see, similar to the art that I shared earlier with their worlds, they got sort of this hive look with these sort of layered hive structures, and then these large entrance and exit points where they have sort of their hangars and their docking bays, and then some of these other pieces sticking out where they put things like sensors and defenses and weapons. Okay, so that's a Gazurian small spaceport. If we take a look at their, like the escort, that's sort of the smallest military ship that the Gazurians can get. That's what the escort looks like, and you can see there they've got a taller, look to them. I can turn off the markers for the slot locations. You just see them as they are. But so we're just, I don't want to slow things down too much on the initial part before we get out of the system, but so we're going to try to prioritize those construction resources first. It's not a bad thing to get some luxury resources early on as well, just because it will help with your economy, because that will immediately boost your development. So if we look at our development, we see we have a base 40% development that we get from our population. We get plus 4% from other items, which in this case is this ancient ruin on our planet that boosts our development by 4%. That development rate, we're getting none from resources right now. We don't have any luxury resources. Our planet started with silicon. It's a sandy desert planet, so big surprise. It started with silicon. That's our main resource that we started with. It's not going to help with our development rate. But as we get more of those luxury resources, this development rate will go up, and that acts effectively in combination with the population as a multiplier on the overall GDP of that planet, on the overall revenue that planet can generate, which then corruption and tax rate affect how much of that you as the administrative government can actually get from that planet. The secluded shrine of Sastia, let's take a look at where that is. That's here, which has Korhuga beans and more silicon. Alright, let's investigate that. So there are things, unpleasant things, there are things on this world. Living things that are not Gazurian. They are unfamiliar, but something about them suggests they might be delicious. We will have to report back. They move to and fro, making noises that resemble language, and yet no one from our world can understand them, so maybe not language after all. The creatures work strange devices, possibly machines, though we do not recognize them, so also possibly junk. Before killing and eating these creatures, should we study them and their maybe machines? Doing so will distract us from other important projects, such as growing stronger. It might be better to simply devour them. So I will leave this choice up to the viewers and the chat. So I would like you to let me know in the chat here whether you would like to, for these things with possibly machines and possibly language, should we devour them or should we study them? So please let me know. Obviously I'm a little bit ahead of where the stream is. So when you get to this point, tell me, put your vote in the chat, and let's see what it says. Okay, we've got 2 devours, we've got 1 study, then devour. We've got 3 devours. And give it a little more time and see if there's anything else. There's 4 devours. We're coming in pretty strongly on the devour. Role-playing the Gizureans here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and say devour. So let's devour them. Good eating. The aliens were delicious, though the fur sticks in your mandibles. We have ravaged the world for anything of value. We enjoyed doing it. So that happened, and we got this lovely little bonus called Tasty Teakins, which gives us a 25% population growth bonus until 2756. So basically for a year now we're getting a pretty big population growth bonus because of the Tasty Teakins. Apparently those were Teakins that we devoured on that planet. Let's just take a quick look back at what we found in terms of mining locations. So over here you can see that we've got a silicon. We now got it's still giving us a yellow border telling us we actually have enough production on that. We don't actually need to prioritize that one. We're still not finding a lot of additional construction resources. We do have some exploration ships out there. I think in this context I'm going to go ahead and prioritize this, deep ocean world. It has Gazan crystal, which we don't particularly need right now, but it is a construction resource we will need in the future. But it also has Eucantium pearl, which happens to be one of the best luxury resources for boosting colony development. So I'm going to go ahead and say sure. Let's do that one next. And I had a request here to show off the fighter models. Let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have the fighter models yet, but I'll tell you what, as soon as we finish researching these first two things, we'll do the fighters next, and then as soon as we've researched those, I will show you the fighters. So let's see. We start out with maneuvering, so we can go ahead and just queue up Hive Starfighters as right after our stable warp fields. So as soon as that happens, I'll show you off the fighters. I mean, I guess you can sort of see them in the research tree, but I'm guessing you would like to see them significantly closer up than that. If we look here, you can kind of see the models of the basic fighter and the basic bomber look like, though. So that's a little bit of a preview for you now. But we'll look at them a little bit closer once we've got them as a design. Alright, so our exploration ships are cruising around, surveying and exploring. We could build another research station here, which I think we will go ahead and do. We found that this place that had the Tasty Teakins also had a boost to troop research at its location. Now every time you get a location with research, that gives you the opportunity to build a research base, and each research base, in addition to adding that bonus to your overall bonuses for research, gives you another whole chunk of research output. So it's always a good idea to grab those research locations. Just looking through these, I think the next priority will probably be Glaonene here, this ice tundra world that has Decarianail and Kasadi, just because, again, two nice luxury resources. But I'm hoping that soon my exploration ships will discover the other things that we need to find. If I take a look, we started out with exploration scanners. We could also research planetary exploration to research at a somewhat deeper level. What exploration scanners do is they allow you to research more quickly. So when I say research, I mean explore. Explore locations more quickly to find out what's there. This is what I was waiting for. So we have discovered... See, this is great. We definitely need steel and Mebnar. We're not going to be able to build anything. So let's just take a quick look here. So we've got an asteroid field around this planet. The planet itself is a rocky metallic planet, so that will also probably have some nice resources for us. But we've got these asteroid fields. Now, for the asteroid fields, each of these represents a single one of these asteroid locations, but when you build a mining station at an asteroid, it actually has a range that encompasses all the asteroids in the area and combines their resource abundance in just sort of one mining station. Okay, so this planet already has some. So let's go ahead and queue this one up. Let's queue the planet itself, and as our ship finishes exploring the asteroids, and this is one of the advantages of starting with exploration scanners, they don't explore as deeply as a survey team. When it comes to asteroids, they can explore multiple at a time. So we should be able to catalog this asteroid field quite quickly and find out which will be the best locations to build at. Alright. So it's moving along nicely. And it looks like we've just found a location for Aculon as well. Indeed, Sastia 1, which is another rocky metallic planet, has Mebnar and Aculon. So Mebnar and Aculon, between those and the steel, we're going to meet a lot of our most important construction resource needs. I would say we're going to really want polymer, we're going to really want emerald crystal as well before we feel kind of comfortable. We're probably going to want a lot more steel, but that's starting to make me feel comfortable that our empire's economy will be able to take off. Oh, and there's Cuprica there too. Great. So as we keep exploring, one of the things about any location, like when we look at this one where we just found Cuprica. So if we take a look here, you'll notice it's got an exploration level 10, so it says unknown items are present. We know there's more to find here, though we may not be able to find it yet with the maximum level that our current exploration tech can explore to. We know that we found initially the Mebnar and the Aculon, and as our survey ship kept exploring, it found the Cuprica, but there's one more resource here that we haven't found yet. And if we take a look at the research side of things, and again, just take a look at the exploration scanners, you see that they have exploration power of 5. The basic survey module has exploration of 10, so we can't explore above a level of 10 right now, but if we research this, we could go up to 15. And if we get even further to like multi-team exploration, we can go up to 25, etc. So those will allow us, when we get to those exploration texts, those will allow us to find out what's here. There's a second shortcut to this, though. By building a mining station at Sastia 1, because of the fact that there's going to be mining happening there constantly, that will naturally increase the exploration level of the planet over time as well. Anytime there is that type of exploration going on nearby. And this one now has come back and it's doing some more exploration there too. And what else did we find? Unknown items detected at Foytasir. So there's something else present there as well that we don't know about yet. Let me take a look at the chat. Has the team thought about setting up a pre-order for the DLC? I know myself and several others were interested in the Discord of pre-ordering the next DLC. So we have had mixed experiences with pre-orders in the past in general, just because we know that from a community standpoint, some gamers are in favor of them, some gamers look on them with great suspicion. So as a general rule, we usually don't do pre-orders. We usually just say, when it's out, and then you can see the reviews and you can see people playing it. And if you want to, buy it day one or wait and see what people are saying about it before you make your decision, then you can make your decision that way. It's not to say we have never done pre-orders with some of our games, and we'll never do a pre-order in the future, but it's not something that we've got in our plans right now for Distant Worlds 2. Maybe in the future we will. Alright, so this is good. Carbonite we definitely needed, polymer we definitely needed, and we've also discovered Incastia fruit, which is going to give us another development bonus once we mine it. So this ends up being a really important planet. With emerald crystal, polymer, and carbonite, which were 3 of the key construction resources we were missing, we'll go ahead and queue that up. And I think our cash flow is now at the point where I'm going to go ahead and actually add another mining ship construction ship as well. And we've got some more necrostone there. Let's grab that too. And we've discovered krypton, which we were short of, so let's go ahead. That's a really nice source of krypton, actually. That's a beautiful 95% abundance gas giant. That entire gas giant is made up mostly of krypton, apparently. And it looks like it is, too. Alright, so going back to this asteroid field, if we take a look, you notice how these all have these green check marks now? That means these all have been explored fully. So we know what's in this entire asteroid field now, except for we still have a little bit of exploration going on there. No, they're done. So this asteroid field's been explored, so we can go ahead and plan out where we're going to put our mining stations. So if we put one here, seems good. Again, it's going to cover a radius. We'll put another one here. We do want to mine Foytasir because that had unknown things. I'll go ahead and grab Decarianel as well. Alright, and then the last thing I want to do at this moment is I realize we are at the point where we've started researching stable warp fields to get out of our solar system. I'll go ahead and crash that project because we are not super fast. Even though we've built our one research center now, we're at a total of 48 research output. So if we take a look here, this is a size 225 project. So 48 research output versus 225 for the size. As you can see, it's going to take 2.3 years, even with it being crashed, to complete it. So we're going to take a while with that as the Gizureans. Until we find more research locations with our, all research penalty, it's going to slow us down a bit. Until we find things to devour and scour and salvage and retire, it will also slow us down a bit. But once we start doing that, once we start to scour and devour and take things apart and reverse engineer them, our tech will start to advance quite a lot more quickly, just through those means rather than through pure research. Mad Menon, you are in fact allowed to devour all intelligent life in the galaxy should you so wish, and I think when we do add achievements in the future, we'll have to add something like that for the Gizureans, where sufficient devouring gets you some kind of achievement. I mean, we did devour the Teekans. Unfortunately, the growth rate bonus for devouring the Teekans that we found has expired now. If you take a look, we've got 2.6 billion Gizureans, and they're growing at 6% a year, roughly. So we're doing pretty well with that. We're currently funding our growth with 83% of our bonus funding to fully fund growth. And research is being fully funded to its max potential right now, and that's not taking up much of our funding. Let's just take a quick look back at our characters. I don't think we ever looked at our other characters. So we have an admiral now who has a bonus to countermeasures. Gizureans, one of the things you'll notice about them is they do actually have wings. And so they also come with that sort of a little bit of a natural advantage in starting out with some countermeasures, and they're a little bit more likely to have traits like this. So they can be quite good at avoiding being hit when people target them in space combat and 3D combat. So our leader here has become a bean counter, isolationist, labor-oriented, measured type. I mean, these are sort of mixed traits, what I call them. They're not negative traits, they're not entirely positive traits. They just shift you, but the end result of this has been that between all these traits, people aren't too happy with a bean counting isolationist, even though he's measured and labor-oriented. But it is giving us a boost to income, facility construction speed, diplomacy, though we don't need that right now, weapons research, corruption reduction. See, that's quite nice, actually. An additional boost to reduce corruption. So his bean counting, his measured ways are reducing corruption on our planet. His labor orientation is increasing happiness. His measured is reducing it. So he's a little bit of a mixed bag. And you can see all the markers saying, okay, you got plenty of this stuff now, so you don't need to build more mining stations right this instant. You can choose to if you wish, but this is basically now warning you as of the discovery update that it's not required. You'll be okay even without those additional ones. I guess we may as well grab the Carhuga beans and the Incasdia fruit at this point. And if we look at our resources, there are only 2 resources. Actually, if we take a look at this, we now have sources for all of them. So we know of sources for all the construction resources now. We just haven't built mining stations at them all yet. We know we have the Krypton mining station in progress of being built. We have Asalia, also in the process of being built. And we have Tiderios, which is queued up but not yet being built. So our construction resource needs will be fully met in terms of having a source for all construction resources soon. And then it's just a matter of, as you get out and your empire grows, scaling up your construction resource production to meet the needs of your fleets, to meet the needs of your planets, to maintain your growth rate. And we're getting very close to finishing stable warp fields, which will give us the warp bubble generators, which will let us go out of our solar system, where things will start to really accelerate. Watching some of our freighters move around. So we've got some cargo of luxury resources coming from over here, along with a few of these. We can actually take a look at what our freighters are doing. So we have some transporting carbonite, transporting Kazlan, transporting different types of our metallic construction resources, the Kasati, luxury resources, lots of Kazlan moving around, carbonite, emerald crystal, and polymer. You can watch this all day if you want. Sometimes it can be revealing. You know, you can also take a look at sort of the resource map with the map overlay and see when you're out the multi sort of system empire, and see where your different resources are flowing from and to. We don't have passenger ships yet, so it's mainly that we've got the mining ships and the freighters moving around, and we can see our mining ships are mainly focusing. These guys are focusing on getting those good old Karuga beans, so those are our bean miners. The rest of them are getting a little bit of additional steel and Mebnar, because it's hard to have too much steel and Mebnar. Okay, so we completed our stable warp fields, which is great. And our advisor is suggesting that we build another exploration ship, and that's a great idea. In fact, I would suggest that at this point we build a couple more and a construction ship, because as we get out into this wider galaxy, which I'm playing 1,000-star galaxy, which is about half the max size that you can play here. As we get out into the wider galaxy, we're going to have a lot more things to explore and a lot more places that we need to build at. So let's take a look now. We were researching the Hive fighters. For the player who was interested in those, I'm going to go ahead and crash those, and I'll research the Hive defense right after that. And I think we're going to go ahead and grab the slightly larger spaceports, grab the improved civilian ships, the system patrol starships for our frigates, and I think we'll grab the networked targeting systems. I'm not necessarily trying to play purely optimal, but sort of just to show off some things for you all. So we've encountered the menacing Storm Corsairs, pirate faction composed mainly of Icaro. They don't like us very much. They have contempt for our civilized complacency and so on. And one of the things you'll notice as of the Discovery update also is the pirates don't always offer protection right away. Depending on how unhappy they are with you at the start, they may or may not. So they just ticked up one, and now they're willing to offer us protection. I don't think I'm going to take that yet, though. What do you all think? Should I try to get protection with this pirate faction, or should I instead try to build some ships and fight them? Same question here. We found the Venomous Storm League composed of Gizureans. So I'm going to pause here. They don't like us very much either. I will say I'm going to pause it here for a sec to see what you all say. Because the thing about pirates is when they start out disliking you enough that they don't want to give you protection right away, then if you fight them, they're going to dislike you more. It's going to be impossible for a while to get them to accept a protection treaty. If you give them a gift pretty early on, you can get them protection. It can be a stable protection. So we got one vote to just build ships and fight them, one vote to get protection and stab them when they're not looking. That's a tie, so I'll see if anyone else has any opinions on that. Or maybe we could do half and half. Maybe I'll get protection with one of them and fight the other. Okay, so it's 2 votes for protection. Alright, well let me go ahead and see if these guys are willing to take protection. So we'll take protection with these guys. And if we get one more vote for protection, I'll try to get it with these guys too. Otherwise, we will fight them. So what we have happening right now is what's happening over here. Slow this down a little bit. You can see these pirates fighting. They're attacking. That was one of our freighters, I believe. This is our mining station that mines Kazlan. See, pirates love Kazlan mining stations. They absolutely love them. Now the nice thing about different pirate factions, though, as you'll notice, is they don't get along with each other. So here are the Menacing Storm Corsairs, here are the Venomous Storm Leagues. They're also going to fight each other a little bit for this mining station, and that'll give us a little bit of a reprieve. What I'm going to do in the meantime is I am going to build a few ships while we see if we go for protection with the other faction too. These guys are fighting each other right now. Switch to the freeform camera a bit. if we take a look at their ship designs, like that's our station firing. If we take a look at their ship designs, they've got fleet frigates, railguns, concussion missiles. I mean, they're ahead of us tech-wise, but they're not that far ahead. These are not super powerful guys. Let's take a look at what the menacing Storm Corsairs have for tech. They're similar, but they get fusion beams, those being the Icro special tech. They're a little bit slow. They have organic hulls too. Excuse me. Oh boy, these guys, the Icro ones are probably the ones we don't want to fight. But you know what? We'll try it. We'll try it and see. So let's just see how it goes. If it goes poorly, then if our initial, let me go over and take a look at our fleet templates too. I'm going to modify our defensive fleet template here. We don't need destroyers and cruisers in here now. Let's do that. We'll do 33% of fuel range. So I'm adjusting the tactical settings for what is a default defensive fleet for my Empire, just to make sure that it has the types of ships and the types of default fleet settings for how they engage and how they retreat that I would like. So I've done that now. I won't mess with the attack fleet for now because I think initially we're just going to have a defense fleet. And if we look at the production queue for what's being built, if we look at our construction locations, you can see we've got a pretty long construction queue. You know, they're building exploration ships and freighters, and we queued up some escorts. State ships by default go to the front of the queue, but we also had an exploration ship and a construction ship we had queued up before. And then here come all the escorts after that. So it's going to be a little while before our escorts all come online. So we will speed this up again and see. I think the pirates fought each other. We can see our exploration ships heading out though. And the sooner we break out of our system and start to find out what else is out there, the less vulnerable we will be to pirate raids. Typically speaking, if you're already getting out of your system pretty well, it's much harder for the pirates to shut you down. And we have a new pirate faction, the Evil Claw Guild. And these guys don't like us particularly either. It's like they're heading into here. Yeah, once again, they love that Gazan station. The Mortallans don't like us. We could get a protection treaty with them potentially. So I will accept that since we're just going to try to fight one pirate faction at a time. And I did set this to many pirates, so I'm getting exactly what I asked for. I tend to like to fight the pirates personally, but we've got the Mortallan counts now. They like us enough that they're going ahead and offering protection from the start, so we'll accept that. Now this is going to weigh on our economy though. Every one of these protection treaties costs us 125 credits a month, so we're paying 375 a month just to keep these pirates off our backs for now. We have a suggestion to build another escort. Sure, why not? Aha! So we found an independent colony of Tikans right over here in Manabu. They're naturally hostile towards us. We can invade and take over, but the communications are fairly neutral. We learned about who the Tikans are. I won't review that right now, but they're fuzzy guys who love, they're great miners and engineers. They're also great at repairing things and tinkering with things. And over there we found Jacanta ivory. We're finding some new, unique luxury resources. And over here, this Vodkal and Jacanta ivory planet. That's got pretty high abundance of two pretty nice luxury resources, so we'll go ahead and queue that. That's this ice planet here. And we get a notification that the menacing Storm Corsairs did raid our base, but didn't obtain any loot, so that's fine. And we got some Terralian down here. We'll go ahead and keep queuing these construction ships to build mining stations at our luxury resources. And we've completed Hive Starfighters. Okay, so we're receiving a message from the aliens on Manabu. They speak our language. We will listen to what they have to say and weigh the merits of their words before we decide if we want to eat them. So you guys are going to have another choice, I think, coming up here. And we're going to go ahead and accelerate our progress on the orbital hive defense base. And I think what we'll probably do, just because we found these Teekins, and as you said, Teekin's back on the menu, let's go ahead and queue up the things we need to do troop transports as well. I'm going to move the expanded civilian ships down a bit. Focus on our troop transports and probably queue up some talk about the ability to make shock forces, to make armor so that we can invade with better troops when the time comes to invade. And I'll maybe just get a better reactor because we're burning a terribly large amount of fuel with our original Tech Level 0 reactors. So, aliens who speak, greetings travelers, we are Teekins and we welcome you as partners in trade. We are glad you're here. Yeah, Teekins love to trade. We're glad you're here because we need your help. We established a research base in your home system so that we could learn more about you in order to pave the way to a beneficial trading relationship. Unfortunately, we have lost contact with our researchers. Do you know anything about their circumstances? What do you think, chat? Do we know anything about the circumstances of that research base, observation base they established in our home system? An important decision. Their circumstances are, they were delicious, but it may not be wise to mention this. We shall have to decide how to handle these creatures. Should we lie to them? Or intimidate them by boasting of our conquest and the fact that we ate them? So, do we lie and say that we don't really know what happened to those researchers, or do we boastfully tell them that, yeah, we ate them and they tasted good? So we have one vote for lie so far. Another vote for lie. 3 votes for lie. Okay. So it sounds like a pretty good consensus on lie. So let's go ahead and lie. We've lied to the foolish mammals and said that a terrible disease afflicted their outpost. We did our best to save them, but their disease was too stupid to respond to our excellent medicines. One of their babies died in our arms. It was very sad. There was much weeping on our homeworld. To console ourselves, we claimed their research base and used it to further our own growth. Any rumors of us eating the aliens' corpses are highly exaggerated. So that's the result of lying there. So we were tricky. They're still talking. We are receiving another transmission from Manabu. Thank you for your report. We grieve for our lost scientists, but we appreciate your efforts to save them. We will have to work on our understanding of your language because our translations make you sound a little irrational. But we believe that is our fault. As a demonstration of our goodwill, our scientists will share with you some of our recently acquired knowledge. You might wish to know that other travelers have reported sightings of aliens who resemble your species, but they're described as incapable of communication. They have been called mindless devourers. We wish to warn you lest you run into them. And so that's what we got there. Interesting words. Mindless devourers. In what way do they resemble us? We are very thoughtful and deliberate devourers. Even so, there is much we don't know about who we were before the cataclysm. Creatures that resemble the Gizureans may provide an important link to our past, and that may help us to understand our true nature. Alright, and we got a new scientist. How about that? We generated the scientist. Let's just take a quick look at our scientist. Oh, and we can build another troop research station, so we'll do that. Our scientist, we don't know much about them yet, but that's what they look like. So that's our Gazurian scientist. I've already showed you our overlord. We have an ambassador now. We could actually assign an ambassador somewhere. We have our admiral, our general, and our scientist, and our spies. So now you get to see all the character art there. Yes, we've named this disease getting eaten by Gizureans, flavor philitis, yep. So they're talking again. We are receiving another transmission from Manabu. These aliens are very chatty. They sure are. There is one more thing we wish to discuss. Long ago, one of our research vessels discovered an alien in cryosuspension. We did not recognize its species or know what to do with it, but we now see this being is a Gazurian. After encountering you, we awakened the sleeper, who is indeed a Gazurian from long ago, a scientist, in fact. We are willing to return him to you for a very low cost, just to cover our storage and resuscitation costs, you understand. So we could get a Gazurian scientist from long ago if we pay them 20,000 credits, or we could decline. I'm going to leave this decision up to you all again. So, do we pay for this ancient Gazurian scientist, or do we decline the offer and not pay the Teekins? What are your choices here? It's one vote for paying them, bring him into the fold. 2 votes for paying them, 1 vote for decline. It's 2-1 now in favor of paying him. Pay, 3-1 in favor of paying. He might know ancient tech, maybe he knows. Pay. Alright, 4-1. I'm going to go ahead with pay. So it's going to cost us 20,000 credits. We have 63,000, so that's fine. This is interesting. A scientist in the past could be of great value. We've paid these shifty mammals their ransom. We are receiving more information from them now. So did he... Okay. We're sending you our scientist now. He's a bit special. Let's call him special. But he is a very intelligent scientist, so good luck to you, friends. I hope we can do business again soon. So let's see who we got. Oh, he hasn't appeared. Oh, there he is. He finally appeared. The scientist the aliens have handed over is irrational. He comes from long ago, from a time when Gizureans knew far more and were spread out across the galaxy. That knowledge should prove very useful, but there are some problems. The scientist has difficulty talking about this time. He mostly rants about the lack of voices in his head. We wish he could communicate more clearly, but he only says, "Words are insufficient and were once unnecessary." No one likes working with the scientist. Even so, he is very clever. So this is the scientist that we got. Again, we don't know much more about him. Oh, we now know he's demoralizing. So we have a demoralizing scientist that we got from the ancient times. We have to decide if we want to keep him around and see what may come from having an ancient scientist, or if we're unhappy with him being demoralizing. What we could do, I mean, if we send him to a different research station, once this research station is built, if he goes there, and his being demoralizing won't affect anyone else, then he can just be demoralizing all by himself, which I think is probably what I would opt for at this point. More unknown items detected. So we keep getting raided by pirates while we've been talking to these Teekans. And I have a question for you all, because we have this particular independent that we've been talking to that we got the scientists from. The question is this. Should we try to butter them up and colonize them? In other words, stick with a diplomacy strategy? Or should we change our strategy to invasion, not bother buttering them up anymore, and instead build an invasion fleet and go invade them, scour them, and devour them? I'm going to give chat the choice on that. So stick with diplomacy or switch over to invasion. And the pirates are attacking us here. Oh, they're attacking a station we still have under construction now. That was in the Manabu system. That's where we've been trying to build that station around that ice planet with those luxury resources that we really like. A lot of exploration ships you can see when I'm in this list here. Let's see. Oh, we can still butter them up, just not in the way you had in mind. They were tasty. I think we've acquired... Alright, so invasion it is. It looks like we've pretty clearly chosen in favor of invasion, so I'm going to switch this over to an invasion strategy. And we're almost done researching the Hive fighter bases, then we're going to just research the... We've got the larger spaceport patrol starships. You know what, I'm just going to go ahead and prioritize troop transports. I do want to build a larger space station first, because that'll speed up our construction speed and just give us a better spaceport to defend our home if the pirates really get to become a problem. And then we can continue with the frigates after that to help us again defend our home system and be able to deal with the pirates and take them out. So what we've got right now is we've completed our orbital hive defenses. We're now working on our larger spaceport, so I'm going to go ahead and crash that as well since we have the money and I want to get moving here. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. So for 10,000 credits I can build a hive fighter base on our home planet, and it costs us 500 credits to maintain. So I'm going to go ahead and start construction on that so that we will have hive fighters to defend our home planet against those damn pirates. So the pirates keep destroying the station that we're trying to build here. We do have another nice source of steel here. We have a source of argon here. We're definitely finding a lot of sources of construction resources. If I turn off the asteroid part of it to just look at planets, we've got a steel planet there and an Aculon planet there. I'm going to go ahead and queue those Won't worry about the asteroids just yet. We're losing credits to the menacing storm corsairs. And again, we're making them a secondary priority for now. But when we get our frigates, we're going to make them the prime priority to get rid of them. We're going to need to find out where they are, though. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take our spies here. Neither of them have distinguished themselves yet. So I think what we'll do... hang on. Which was it again? The menacing storm corsairs are the one that we're having the problems with. So we're going to go ahead and take this guy and say, menacing storm corsairs. Well, let's assign you to take a look at their territory map. And actually, let's do that for both of them. Survival of the fittest. See if either of them survive that. And if they do, maybe we'll know more about what quality spies we have. We've discovered the Pyramid of Bilgaruth, ancient ruins from a lost civilization at the carbonaceous moon Agribor on the Bilgaruth system. So that's here, in this gas giant planetary subsystem here. So should we investigate it? Yes. Oh, we got a special event. So, do the pirates extra hate you because our hive? Well, we're not hive, we're Gizureans. The pirates, how much they like us or dislike us is somewhat random based on what type of pirates they are. Some of them will be more focused on raiding and just taking what they want. Others think of things more in the context of, you know, trade and getting along or so on. And so your range of initial pirate impressions of you will vary now as a discovery update. And so they won't always start being willing to go into a protection treaty. That you can give them gifts to get them to that point, or you can fight them. But it may take extra work to get all pirates to be willing to sign protection treaties, and some may not be willing, and you'll have to fight them. So we found a powerful locator beacon. We activated the beacon, and its signal has been picked up by a fleet of 5 ships that has just hyper-jumped into the Bilgaruth system. A message from the fleet explains, "Greetings, we are human refugees from a faraway galaxy. We were driven from our home by a cruel alien race who pursued us in a brutal war. We seek refuge with you and wish to join your empire. In return, we offer you a fleet of ships." So they have colony ships and a small escort of military ships. They appear to be quite advanced. We want to absorb these refugees into our empire and claim their ships, then we should move towards their fleet at Agribor. Well, heck yes. Let's find out what's going on here. So what do we have here? We've got escorts, patrol escorts. Let's look at what these humans have. Yeah, this is going to be great. If we take these and we could do one of two things. We could take them and keep them. And we've got a frigate here too. We could take them and reverse engineer them, retire them. We could then take these 58 million humans. We could put them on one of the planets, retire their colony ship as well, and do the breeding world thing. Or we could bring them to another world, plop them down there, and then do the breeding world thing, you know, there. Or we could just be nice and have them join our fleet, use them to take out some of the pirates and colonize the world and let the humans live among us in peace. So I'm going to, I guess, again, ask for the advice of the chat on what we want to do here, but I'm going to take manual control of my exploration ship here. Oh, and we found the Clan of Superiority. That's one of the story-based pirate factions, which is a little bit stronger. So I will accept protection from them for now, since we're not focused on taking out pirates. That's not where our game is heading right now. I'll let you all decide what to do with these extra ships once we have them in here. Ignoring the pirate messages for now. So what do we do with the humans, chat? Yep, let's investigate that. So it's in good working order. We boarded it and taken control. So this is the first thing we need to decide, right? We boarded it and taken control. Do we retire them, or do we use them to fight with? So keep them for fighting pirates, settle the humans. They might be a good food reserve. Stick them on a planet, see what they taste like. Can they fight off the pirate ships? Alright, so it's pretty clear that for now you'd like to let these refugees come into our midst, and we will use them to build up a future food stockpile, but for now we'll let them settle among us and use their ships to help fight off the pirates. So we'll investigate that one as well. And we'll head over and investigate these others. We are at the point where we're now researching shipboarding, so we're only one tech away from getting our troop transports. And if we look at our military ships now, we can see that they've already started doing some work for us. And they're about twice as strong as the ships we already have because they have higher tech. We can build we found a research location with 20% engine research and 10% construction research. Absolutely. So now we're getting their frigate and we're getting their colony ship. And it has humans already on board. Another research location for troop research. That's very good. That's going to help us be able to build overwhelmingly strong invasion forces. And that should finalize all the human ships, so I will turn you back to automatic for now. And so if we take a look at this now, our automation, because we still had it turned on, has now formed an automated defense force from the human frigate and the human escorts, plus the escorts we had already built. And this particular defense fleet has the 3% of fuel range. This is the settings we gave it in our template. And its home base has already been set to the Sastia 3 spaceport, which is the spaceport that's located at our home planet, at our home world, which we can actually upgrade now and will, since we completed the improved spaceport research. So that fleet is going to center itself there, and then it'll be able to respond to some of these pirate raids as they happen. And if we find out the location of the pirate base, then we will also be able to perhaps send it after them. And it looks like our spies, while we weren't paying attention to all those, so he was captured, but it looks like we did, maybe we found it through exploration, because it looks like we know where they are now. Sure, we'll build there. So if we take a look in here, it's telling us that in fact the home base of the menacing Storm Corsairs is right here. That is their home base. That's the faction that's been giving us all this trouble. It is a strength 489 spaceport, so it's not a very strong spaceport, which means that what we could do is we can go ahead and take our defense force. I'm going to go ahead and refuel and repair them. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tell them to attack that particular spaceport. Since they're a defense base, they're not an attack fleet, so they're not considered normally available for that type of stuff. Defense fleets will look at where do you have assets of your own, and they will defend those, whereas attack fleets will tend to be looking at where are there enemy targets that you can attack. So we're just going to refuel the whole fleet, and we're going to, in this case, manually assign them to attack over here. I'm going to say, prepare an attack. We have a 728 strength fleet, and to be clear, it's not a very strong fleet. The human ships are definitely more capable than ours. Ours have only the very basics in terms of very weak weapons, very weak shields and armor. They have, the initial warp bubble drives, so we're dealing with some pretty basic military ships here. So whether they'll be able to succeed in taking out this pirate spaceport is a very valid question. And as some of you who've played with the Discovery Update already know, there's a pretty good chance that once we attack the pirate home base, they will activate and bring out a mothball as their cruiser, and that we will have to deal with a pirate cruiser on top of the base. So I'll let you know already that I know that's coming, but we'll see if we can manage it anyway. And that completes our assault pods. So now we have our troop transports, and I'm just moving us towards getting that invasion fleet that will be able to go and take Manabu. Oh, you know what we still need to do is decide where we're going to colonize with these humans. So the human colony ship is refueling. We don't have any colonies that are suitable for humans yet, so we're going to have to wait until we explore and find a few more worlds that humans can actually safely live on that are a little bit less hazardous than the equivalent of Arrakis that we have now. I'll slow this down a bit here. So we can see what's going on. So we've got only 4 fighters on this spaceport. 2 of them have already been shot down. Now 3 of them have been shot down. So the human ships, which are the much more advanced ones, have been rushing ahead. They've got point defenses, unlike our ships. They've been doing a number, but they are starting to take some hits from the base. But this is an optimistic beginning. Let's see what happens once the rest of the fleet gets in range. So the human ships here are firing their railguns and their Sentinel multi-defense beams, which are their point defense weapons, but can also be used dual role. And here we go, the pirate cruiser has emerged. The pirates have decided to put their cruiser back into service. And this one's now engaging us as well. But the rest of our fleet is closing in now, and we have our wave bombs and long-range cannons coming from our Gazurian escorts. And the pirate base is looking like it's taking quite a pounding. A lot of their components are damaged. The pirate cruisers taking a pretty good chunk out of that human ship, but it looks like their tech was not strong enough to really be able to just go ahead and take out our fleet quickly. So it's not looking so good for them right now. You can see part of our fleet, a human frigate and one of our Gazurian escorts, has sort of peeled off from our main fleet, recognizing this additional threat. And the nice thing about the cruiser, when they bring it out of mothballs like this, it starts out with its shields not fully charged. So it's not as strong as it would be if we would encounter it otherwise, when they have sort of this emergency response to having their base attacked. If you fail in destroying their base, then of course this cruiser is now fully in service with them, and it's going to cause you a lot of problems. But it looks like we're going to succeed. There's a chance that we may even get the cruiser joining us. So we eliminated the menacing Storm Corsairs. And look at that. Nope, they joined the venomous Storm Lake. So one of their other ships joined us. We got one of their ships, but this one joined this other pirate faction that we have protection with. So we didn't get the cruiser, unfortunately. But that's a pirate cruiser right there. But the faction that was causing us all this trouble, that has now been resolved. So maybe we can pick another faction and rinse and repeat at some point. I'll set these guys back to be an automated defense fleet, and we'll have them refuel and repair. We could have used that cruiser. Yeah, well, we may get it in the future. There's nothing wrong with Gizureans going and capturing other people's ships. In fact, they do that quite well. But this gives us a new Kazlan source. And Kazlan we do want more of. So now that we blew up that pirate base, they were orbiting a Kazlan gas giant. We can take that. We've also got what looks like a really nice source of some additional metal construction resources here. And we're still trying to get this Jacanta ivory over there. So let's see how that goes. And our troop transport resources coming along. I'm going to speed things up again. We discovered Lucarian fungus plus 6% colony development. Polymer, emerald crystal. It's nice also in cases of war piracy to have multiple sources already built for some of the key resources. So a lot of these we still only have one source actually being mined. So it's not a bad thing to have some overproduction if it also gives you redundancy in the case of raids and such. So I'm going to go ahead and queue up this emerald crystal and polymer source here, and I'm going to go queue up this other. Let's just take a look here what we got. If we want to spread it out and cover more of the asteroid field, maybe this one. Okay, let's take a look at our military ships here. So here's the one. We got a heavy escort from them. And so I think that I'm going to make an executive decision here, and I'm going to go ahead and retire that heavy escort to take advantage of a little bit of the Gizureans. Yes, the price will be the same as the previous DLC price. Just saw that question. Alright, so we have in fact now built the tech we need in order to be able to get troop transports. I'm going to go ahead and accelerate our process towards getting armor forces as well. You may recall that we previously also built our Hive fighter base on our planet, so we now have a planetary fighter defense base that we're now building. Troop transports, I think. Let's see, what have we got here? A small freighter, and an escort. So what we want to do is take a look at our invasion fleet template. So I'm going to just go take a quick look at that. We don't need destroyers in there right now. I think we can do something like, maybe for now, 2 frigates and 5 troop transports, just while we're still quite small. The rest of that is okay for now. And then what I'm going to go and say is build a new invasion fleet at this spaceport. And initially that's just going to be grabbing some of the troop transports, so one that was already under construction, and then I built a few more. And it was limited by the money that we had and the resources that we had. That's why I didn't build more. Unhappy partner anniversary. Oh, that's something about Twitch. Got it. Okay. Okay. So, yep, more polymer and more carbonite. And I think at this point our economy is moving along pretty well. I just want to take a quick look at, if we look at our resource flow for all resources, what we can see right now is all we've got really flowing in from outside of our home system. We've got some resources flowing in from here. It looks like mainly is that Turalian down and some steel. We found some Norjack eggs. So we don't really have a strong network outside. Though we do have what's looked like some folks are about to be transporting stuff back from there. And we had some mining ships bringing resources back from there because we haven't finished a mining station there. Okay, now we're getting there. Now we can build the armor. And we're going to be ready very soon. I think we need to save up to build the armor barracks. And we need to stop spending our money on crashing research so that we can actually build the armor barracks. We can then recruit armor troops. Then we'll have enough troops to put them on our invasion fleet, and we'll go invade and scour and devour those Teekans. Let's see how the Teekans are feeling about us right now. They're troubled by our strange alien ways, but right as of the moment we have a good reputation because we actually signed some protection treaties and destroyed some pirates, so that gives the Teekans the impression that we can to some degree be trusted. Thank you, Dusty Monk. I really appreciate that. Okay, so if we take a look, here's our second invasion fleet. It now has 4 troop transports. The only issue we now have is we don't have troops. Obviously, in order to have an invasion, you've got to have both troops and troop transports. And so what I want to do is I want to just save up enough to build these armor barracks, to build up some excess armor. That'll make that invasion almost guaranteed to succeed against an independent planet. I wanted to take a look real quick here. If we look at our planet here, we're up to 109% development. So you can see we're now getting 59% development boost from resources, which is currently about static. But I wanted to look and see, yeah, so this is the biggest thing we could do to boost our economy that we're not doing now. Alright, so here's our first event. So remember I sent that pirate escort to retire, and we got the waste nothing event. We waste nothing, even when scrapping old ships and bases. We have made a research breakthrough in advanced nuclear fission from thoroughly examining the advanced technology when disassembling the escort shrouded demise. So if we take a look here at reactors, boom, that finished our advanced nuclear fission. So we now have better reactors, which is going to improve significantly the fuel efficiency and the effective range of our ships, which is also a good thing. And our economy is also starting to improve. Now that will over time improve our trade network. It'll improve the range of our fleets. It'll decrease the stress on our freighter network for transport, needing to transport as much Kazlan. Over time it may decrease the price of Kazlan. All kinds of good things come from having more efficiency. But here's what we see. Norjack eggs, Hexadorium, which is a construction resource, a rare one, and Jacanta ivory here. So I'm going to queue that one as well, because I want to make sure we get enough money to build up this armor barracks. Now, one other thing, a lot of players who play a lot of Distant Worlds know this. But one of the ways that you get money, let me just make this clear. So one of the ways you get money is through the taxes that come from your planet. So we can see here, for example, we have our planet, just looking at its population and its development, is generating about 116,000 in total revenue. That's the total economy of that planet. We're losing about 29% of that to corruption, and corruption in this world just means the portion of the economy that's outside of the government's control or visibility. That's all that corruption really means. So there can be many reasons why that's outside of your control and visibility. That ends up with 82,000 in an economy that we can actually tax, and we're taxing it at a tax rate of 23%, so we're getting about almost 19,000. Then we have 1,000 in support costs that we as the state have to pay to keep the things that we need to be going on this world going. So net, we're getting almost 18,000 in revenue from this world, and that's all summarized here. So we can see this almost 18,000 here, and we can see it 18K here. So that's what we're getting from that world. Now, we can also get more income because we control the construction yards. All the construction yards are state-owned. So when the private sector, which you can see here, has 420,000 cash, and is generating pretty good revenue from all the mining station licenses we've given it and the trade of resources that it's doing to bring resources back and forth and sell them. It's making good money. If we can convince them that they need to build more ships, those ship construction orders go through our state construction yards, and that can give us an immediate boost of cash. That doesn't boost our cash flow, doesn't make our base economy better, but it gives us an immediate transactional boost of cash. So why am I mentioning that? Because we're just about ready to complete expanded civilian ships. So once this is completed, they'll have medium mining ships, small colony ships, small passenger ships, small fuel tankers as additional things that they can build. When we get up to expanded civilian ships, they'll also have medium freighters that will basically create a bumper crop of additional construction orders for new, larger freighters and so forth. Anytime that we invest a little bit in making the private sector able to and interested in building more, it ends up giving us a boost on the state economy as well. Now we can also look at things like basic colonization to explore to colonize new worlds. We can look at things like planetary governance to give us planetary administration centers, which will reduce our corruption, thus increase the part of the economy that we can tax. It'll increase our colony happiness, our colony development, and our colony defense. Those are good things to build to help your economy improve. Or we can also just go out here and just get more of these luxury resources set up and flowing back to our planets to improve their development. So for the time being, I'm hoping, because I'm not going to spend anything else on crash research, I'm hoping that what happens is that when this is completed, we will get some additional orders from our private sector, and at the end result of that will put us over that 10,000 that we need in order to be able to build an armor barracks and recruit some armor. The amount that we can actually maintain, if we look again at our economy, if we look here, we've got this 18,000 coming in as our predictable tax from our economy. We're spending 8,000 of it on ship and base maintenance. We're spending 2,000 of it on troop maintenance. That's our projected, okay? So I'm going based on the projections here. This is what we actually spent last year. We're spending a little bit on facility maintenance, which is basically that planetary fighter base we built, though it's being reduced by the fact that we have, from somewhere we're getting a facility maintenance savings. Yeah, so 10% facility maintenance savings here, so it's not costing us the full 500 or so. So look at that. We can build a fuel tanker. I'm not going to do that just yet, but we've completed that civilian ship construction research. And then we spend some of it on building new ships, fuel costs, troop recruitment costs, and so on, which are one-time expenses. But right now, that's the end result of what we're projected to spend, and this tribute paid is what we're paying to the pirates. So my inclination here is that let's take one of these other pirates, maybe one of the weaker ones, and let's end our protection agreement with them. If we can turn it into a non-aggression, that's great. So let's take a look at the clan of superiority. We're now neutral with them. Sometimes when you get to neutral or a little bit above neutral, they're willing to consider switching protection over to non-aggression. And in all these cases, sometimes you can trade too. So what do we have to offer them? You know, we could offer them some of our technical knowledge. We could offer them contact with these other pirate factions that they don't have contact with yet. And in exchange, maybe they'll give us contact with another empire. But what we really want is for them to agree to non-aggression, because that means they won't attack us, but we don't have to pay them this tribute every month. They're offering to sell us some secrets. And I do see that we have enough cash now, so I'll deal with that in a sec. But we could, with any of these who are neutral, you know, they might be willing to go for that. And I'm sure that if we, and they're willing to sell us back our spy for 30,000 too. I'm sure that if we gave them a gift, they would be willing. But I don't want to give them a gift now. So what we will do is we'll go ahead and we will build those armor barracks here. That's going to give us another 500 in maintenance costs for facility maintenance costs. That's going to bump down our cash flow, but we should have enough money to recruit some armor, and that should bring us to the point where we can actually load up our invasion fleets. Stations lacking fuel. Well, typically the only stations that require fuel now are Gazan mining stations, which keep them on hand so that they can act as home bases, basically, for fleets and things like that, so that ships and fleets can go refuel at them. So they'll maintain a fuel level. Other types of bases don't need that as long as they have enough energy collectors to meet their other energy needs. So if we take a look here, and it might be time to just take a quick look, because I said I would when we got to the point of having fighters. So if we take a quick look here at our bases, so if we look, for example, at I don't know, a research station. Okay, so the research station here has the capacity, you know, to store more fuel, but what it mainly wants is it wants enough energy collectors to meet its energy needs. And if we look over here, its energy collection rate is 100. It's got a reactor output of 124. What it really wants in terms of the static energy it uses is 59. And even if it's firing its weapons, you can see the green here is its static energy uses. Even when it's firing its weapons, it's going to be well below the 100 in terms of energy collection, so it does not actually need that. If you want stations to maintain a fuel reserve, you would have to actually go in and tell them that you want them to maintain a fuel reserve. You can remove fuel tanks on those stations if you wish, yes. Sure, there's nothing wrong with that. So we had a rivalry. A power struggle happened between two of our characters, Yogar Bakhtu and Sawa Ichigo. The rivalry has spun out of control, and we are now forced to choose between the two. We must select a winner in this power struggle. The winner will gain an extra skill and a positive trait. The loser will be dismissed. Our empire will also suffer a period of unhappiness as the loser's supporters adjust to the new situation. So we have two scientists who have developed a rivalry. And let's take a look. We have Yogar Bakhtu researching at the Sastia station, who has bonuses to industrial, construction, weapons, and troop research. Relatively small bonuses, but bonuses nonetheless. And then we have Sawa Ichigo, who you remember we got through that story event. The Tikans gave him to us, and he's from ancient times, but he's demoralizing, and so he's on his own separate research center. And he's got construction research, weapons research, and troop research. So clearly Sawa Ichigo is the worst scientist, but he's also from an ancient time, and maybe we don't know everything about him yet. So the question for you all is, one of them has to die. One of them is going to lose this power struggle. Is it going to be Sawa Ichigo, the ancient scientist that's kind of irrational that we got from the Tikans, or is it going to be Yogar Bakhtu? And let me phrase this way. Who wins the struggle? So that's the question that we have here. Do we choose Yogar Bakhtu to win, or do we choose Sawa Ichigo to win? So chat, please vote and let me know. Yogar or Sawa to win the rivalry struggle. It's 2023. Vote Yogar or Sawa. Oh, it's a close election. Right now we have 3 for Sawa, 2 for Yogar. 4 for Sawa. So we have 3 for Yogar and 5 for Sawa. I'll give it just a little bit more time. But right now it looks like Sawa might win. So the ancient, irrational, demoralizing Sawa wins the power struggle. Alright, so Sawa is the winner. Now if we look at what happened here, Sawa gained the positive trait Good Administrator as a result of that, which decreases crash research costs, and he also gained an additional skill that he didn't have before. That's as a result of him winning that rivalry. So we lost Yogar, and we get a -5 penalty to Empire happiness for most of a year, but Sawa got better as a result of winning that struggle. Okay, so now you've seen a Gazurian rivalry. Yeah, sure, we can go ahead and do that now. And let's take a look at where we got to see our cash flow is negative. So we have built the armor barracks, and we are starting to recruit a little bit of armor, but our cash flow is definitely negative now. So we have 2 armor recruiting, and that's going to be something that's necessary for our invasion fleet to be able to really do much. It's got 5 infantry on board now, which might be enough to take the independent planet, but I really would like some of that armor to be on board just to make sure, in case the Teekans get particularly feisty and decide to fight us off, and especially since we're planning on devouring them, they may get extra feisty about that. And we've got this location here. Let's just take a quick look at the pirates. We have learned that the Venom Storm League has their base over there, and I don't really like paying all this tribute. So I think what we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to cancel our treaty with the Venomous Storm League. And we're going to go ahead and take our lovely fleet here. We're going to tell them to refuel. And let's take a look at the Venomous Storm League. They got a bunch of ships here. That's only a 457 strength base. You know there's going to be another cruiser coming out. But I'm not really hating our odds there. I'm going to top our fleet up, and then we're going to go for it. So we're going to go ahead and attack them pretty soon. And you know what I haven't checked back on in a while is that human colony ship. We still haven't found. See, the thing is, we could. I think I had a question earlier about couldn't we unload the humans at our home planet? The answer is we can. But our home planet is going to be quite bad suitability for humans. Oops. What do we have here? Yeah, okay, Venomous Stormling, you can do your thing. Our home planet, humans don't get along well on these types of desert planets. They usually have very low suitability. If we do that, we can certainly put them there. We could consume them. If we keep them alive, though, if we want them to actually survive and grow, which was the original vote, then we really want to put them somewhere where they could realistically grow. In order to keep them alive at our home planet, we'd be paying pretty huge support costs. So the support costs at our home planet, because the humans would be unsuitable to that planet, we would have to pay much higher support costs to keep them alive there. So we'd be building special shelters for them, etc., just to make sure that the humans don't die on, CES TF3, which is like our version of Arrakis, I guess. Uh-oh, we have another power struggle. We have our 2 spies having a power struggle. So the good news is we might get a better spy out of this. We have Kruzeb Narsil, who has plus 4% espionage. He's the one who survived against the pirates. And we have Pundi Goshek, who has no traits so far. So I think it's pretty clear that Kruzeb should win this. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to tell me if you think we should go for the rookie Pundi in the hopes that he's even better than Kruzeb, or if we go with a known quantity Kruzeb, who actually is a bonus to espionage. So Kruzeb or Pundi? Make your choices. I agree, Kruzeb is the better choice. Kruzeb or Pundi, vote for who you want. Gotta be Kruzeb. Alright, 4 choices for Kruzeb. Yep, let's go with Kruzeb. Kruzeb got Inspiring Presence, and he got a boost to concealment. So now Kruzeb's going to make all our spies better, because he won that power struggle. And we lost Pundi. More raids, but frigates are just about complete. The defense forces refueled, so you know what we're doing next here. We're going to go ahead and attack. Oops, wrong location. These guys were over here, I think. Wait, hang on. Where'd the pirates go? Being in the wrong system, they're over here. What else is it suggesting for us? Sure, a new research base, new fuel tanker. I'm willing to do that for now. And then I'm going to say prepare an attack this pirate base. So our fleet is heading off there. Let's see how our invasion fleet's doing. It has now loaded up 8 infantry. You know what? That's probably strong enough, but what you can see here is this yellow arrow means that this armor has been completed recruiting. It's not garrisoned because it doesn't have a blue line, and that means it's preparing to be picked up. So our invasion fleet is heading over to pick up that armor. That armor is going to give us a huge bonus because we know the independents won't have armor. That's going to give us a combined arms bonus as well as it just being a strong attacking troop type. So I'm going to go ahead and sure. Okay, so hang on. We just got a message suggesting that we colonized something. So I bet we just found a planet the humans are happy with. We did indeed. We found a continental planet, Myzik 2 over here. The humans are plus 28. Absolutely. Off the human wily gamble is going to go colonize there. So now the humans will have a home. And we've completed our network targeting. We didn't get that done in time to retrofit our fleet for this attack. But when our fleet finishes this attack, we will get that swarm targeting everywhere. For the purposes of inspiring presence, where is a spy considered to be when on a mission? That's a good question. When a spy is actually on a mission, they are considered to be at the location of the empire that they're or faction that they're doing the mission against. It's only when they're doing counterintelligence missions where they're not actually sent out to somewhere that they're considered to be at their sort of normal home planet location. So if you've got a spy who is inspiring, it's probably a good idea, if you want to milk the inspiring bonus, to stick him on counterintelligence for a while and let your other spies, as they come up, be influenced by them. Okay, Rylug, sure, okay, fine. We'll do Rylug because we don't have any Rylug. They've raided us. Okay, so now we have picked up our armor, I believe. Yep, 8 infantry, 1 armor. So we are now ready to rock. I'm going to queue an attack against Manabu. And we'll see. Oop. And before things proceed too quickly, let me go and take a look at what's going on here. Because the battle has already begun. So they actually had a fleet destroyer back by their base to defend their base. So a fleet destroyer has been fully engaging us, and we've been engaging it. You can see some of our Gazurian frigates now. We haven't actually seen these before. So we have some of our Gazurian frigates, which do indeed have fighters, so we've been launching our own fighters at this base. This base is already taking some hits through the shields, because they had deflector fields rather than full heavy-duty shields. So we've got our frigates and the human frigate here that joined us from that refugee fleet, bringing up the rear. And here comes, they've launched their cruiser, but it's going to take a bit for it to actually power up. Outer mothballs, I think we're not going to have any problems, because the topped-up defense fleet with the extra 5 ships just brings a completely different level of firepower. Up to 1,168 firepower now against the, well, I think it started out at 400. So the main question here is going to be who gets the cruiser at the end, I think. Because we are doing quite well here. Get rid of their destroyer. The cruiser, I think, is about to power up fully. Yep, so it powered up just as we eliminated them. They had our captured spy, remember? They captured one of our spies. Unfortunately, we destroyed him. After eliminating the Venom Storm, some of their ships decided to join our empire. 5 of their ships decided to join our empire. Alas, the cruiser again decided not to, but we got 5 other ships. You know what we're going to do there? Is we're going to take those ships and we're going to retire them. At least that's what I'm going to do, because, I mean, we have a fleet destroyer. It's tempting to keep the fleet destroyer, but I'm going to do this just so you all can see. Oh, this one's disabled, yeah, so we'll just scuttle that. Just so you all can see what goes on with those. So 5 of the ships decided to join other factions. Okay, so we got 3 of those. And then the defense fleet is going to go back to being a defense fleet, and we'll tell them to refuel and repair. And the invasion fleet is loading up. So it's going to grab a few more things, I guess, in preparation for going for Manabu. Manabu is set to be invaded as a strategy, so that's good. How's our mining doing? So we found, because we wiped out that pirate base, look at that, we got another lovely Gazan location. That's the nice thing about wiping out pirate bases, is they're almost always on Gazan gas giants. And we've established our first new colony with that refugee colony ship from that human refugee fleet we found. So we now have the colony of Mizek 2. And you can see its support costs are actually a bit higher than our homeworld, even though our homeworld's a much bigger world, because small starting colonies tend to need more support overall. They don't have everything they need just from those 58 million humans. But the humans are happy there, plus 28 suitability. They're growing at about 3.5%. We're now growing at 3% on our main world, but that's largely because our population is getting close to that max population, which slows down population for all types of species, but this is still a very healthy growth rate for that size of world. And so now we have that, yep, we have those, the humans are pretty happy. So we're going to have happy humans eventually as part of our empire. And when they get over 500 million, then they'll start to contribute bonuses for being humans. Mortal and Council offered trade. I don't think we need to trade yet. But I would also like to note that our cash flow is nicely positive again, since we got rid of one of those protection agreements by wiping out those guys. We don't know currently of any other locations for these pirates. We could try to spy on some of them, but that would mean risking Kruzeb. But we have a spy that we haven't yet used, Pigar Chungat, so let's take him and send him against the Mortal and Council. They're the ones that got that cruiser, so let's see if he can find out where they are. We have not yet met any empires. Well, maybe I don't feel like sending the ambassador to the pirates, but maybe I should. Maybe we should send our ambassador to the Clan of Superiority if we know where they are. No, we can't. We can only send him to Manabu right now because we haven't found out where the Clan of Superiority are located yet. As I am playing the Gizureans from the upcoming DLC, yeah, we've been doing a pretty organic playthrough from the beginning with the Gizureans, trying to show off everything of how they play and a little bit of their story. So we've just found the Gizurean Degenerates' Burrows, ancient ruins from a lost civilization at the sandy desert planet Nazareno. So let's go take a look at Nazareno here. So these are the ancient Gizurean Degenerate Burrows. So we're going to investigate them. Degenerate Gazurians, we're going to get a bit more of the story here. So, alarming news from Nazareno. This world is inhabited by a small population of Gazurians, but they are not like us. They are barely sentient, living animal-like lives with no ability to communicate. They do a great deal of reproducing, but they live in such poor conditions that many die and their numbers do not increase. We believe that these pathetic creatures were once admirable Gazurians like ourselves, but something went horribly wrong. So this has shades of remember what those Tikans told us when they said that there were the Gazurians who were mindless. Do we eradicate these diminished Gazurians and take their desirable world for our own? Alternatively, we could study them and possibly risk exposing ourselves to whatever caused them to devolve. Such a move would be expensive and likely cause unhappiness among our populace. So you folks have heard the briefing. So shall we eradicate them or shall we study them at a potential cost and risk? So I'll give chat the choice here too, and I know we're getting close to the end of this 2-hour stream. I'll go just a little bit longer so we can do the invasion of Manabu. Once we've invaded Manabu, I think we'll stop there. So eradicate, 1 vote, study, 2 votes. Something is not right, we could be next. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Devolution. Study, study, study. Okay, so study seems to have it. So we're going to study them. Doing smart things. Our study of the degenerate Gazurians suggests that they have been afflicted with some kind of mind virus. No, don't worry, there is no chance of it spreading now. We have learned that it affects the psychic centers in their brains. By dissecting many of these creatures, we've learned how they differ from us, and that has in turn taught us much about ourselves. Normal Gazurians maintain a low-level psychic contact with one another at all times. That's why we feel connected to one another. These animal-like Gazurians have absolutely no psychic connection with one another. It is the isolation that has made them like animals. Our scientists, who are surely the best in the galaxy, believe that it is possible to focus our research on a means of reversing the blockage and turning these pathetic creatures into normal Gazurians. Or is that too much of a bother? We could just as easily ignore the creatures, crowd them out of their habitat, and allow them to enjoy a slow and natural extinction. So do we ignore them and allow them to enjoy a slow and natural extinction, or do we research and find out how to reverse this devolved, psychically disconnected state that they have ended up in? I'm going to give you a choice again, ignore or research. 2 votes for research, 3 votes for research, 4 votes for... Everybody would like to research and find out what this is about. Okay, let's research and find out. So if we take a look at this, we go down here, we now have study degenerate Gizureans. So I'm going to go ahead and queue that up. As soon as our basic colonization is done, we will study the degenerate Gizureans, and researching that will also give us plus 1% to all research, so that's nice. And we don't have the money to crash the colonization, but it'll only take 200 more days to finish that, and then we'll start researching the degenerate Gizureans. Yeah, what could go wrong? Let's also just take a quick look here. That world they're on is a plus 57 suitability Gazurian planet, by the way. So I think as soon as we finish researching this colonization tech, we are going to want to colonize that one way or the other. Maybe we can colonize that by curing them, maybe not. So we waste nothing. We waste nothing even with... So we've gotten another advance, this time in proton ionization. Remember I sent those pirate ships to retire. And if we take a look here, we can see that completed the tech level 1 engine tech for us now. So we've been getting boosts. You can see we've also been getting boosts to Garox hyperdrives, which are the really good hyperdrives. We've been getting some boosts to weaponry as well. So all these little boosts that show up on your tech tree, we've been getting them through the process of retiring these ships. Speed this up a little bit. Defense fleet's coming back to refuel, and it's good because it's almost out of fuel. We have Doakan T, more luxury resources for development. I'm fine with that. And we have Kandumar Major, which is another Kazlan source, which will absolutely queue up. And Vodkal. And Karen. Yeah, let's see. Do we have any other Kazlan sources? Let's take a look. Okay, we've queued up all our Kazlan sources. This has Tabrakian granite and emerald crystal. Sure. That's a luxury resource we don't have yet. Or at least we're short on production on, but I believe we don't have it yet. We have another power struggle among our spies. Boy, this has been an unusually large amount of power struggles we're getting this year. But it is what it is, and I think Kruzeb has to win this because he's our inspiring guy. So Pigar is very busy, so Kruzeb wins the power struggle. I don't think that needed to be up for a vote. But he's now energetic as well, so Kruzeb is now plus 3% to all existing skills, so we're getting a better spy throughout this. We've encountered an abandoned colony ship adrift near Erd Mantil 2. Should we investigate it? It has Icaro on board, folks, so I think we shall investigate it. We've acquired it. We have millions of Icaros sleeping in stasis hibernation. How about that? And our empire's temporarily unhappy because those power struggles keep happening in our empire. Thank you, Rohan Bus. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Like I said, we're getting very close to the end. I don't think we really need to load anything else, actually. I think it wants to, but let's go ahead and tell them they're done preparing. Let's invade Manabu. Oops, not prepare and raid. Let's go ahead and attack Manabu. Prepare and attack Manabu, yep. Let's just go ahead and invade Manabu. I think we're there. I think we can do it with the invasion fleet that we have. We've got strength 1463. Manabu is far weaker than that, so sure, we can go ahead and do that. So we'll have them invade there, and I cannot... This is size 1600. This is going to take a while to research, so unfortunately I think I'm not going to be able to play to the end of that, but I will let those of you who are interested as a result of this stream in picking up the Gazurian DLC and want to play as Gizureans, or want to play as the Quameno, and I'll encourage those who've been watching for Quameno info. I went over the Quameno at the beginning, and if you look at my prior stream on the Discovery update, I did some playing as the Quameno as part of that update. But I'm going to have to let the Gazurian story finish here, and I think you all will have to discover for yourselves what happens once you have researched more about those degenerate, devolved Gazurians. So let's have our invasion happen. We'll conquer, and I think we'll do a little bit of a scouring in a breeding world just so you all get to see that in action. So these are our... Right here we have our invasion ships. These are our Gazurian invasion ships, so troop transports. You can see where they're storing all those Gazurians on board, heading for that poor Tikan planet, where they still think that nothing bad happened by us to their research observation station. Little do they know. what's about to happen to them. So we have our troop pods, now our assault pods going down to the planet, and we can see here we've got our general. He's actually not a great general. He's got good troop maintenance savings and recruitment rate and good defense strength, but he's not great on the attack. Oh my gosh. That's actually a surprising thing. I didn't actually know that could happen. Maybe that shouldn't happen, but it'll allow us to progress that story. The research bonus we got from dismantling things helped us figure out what was going on with the degenerate Gizureans. So we got two things going on. Our research breakthrough has led to a curious discovery. Our scientists have finished their work on the mindless Gizureans. They are no longer mindless and can be made useful members of society. We shall put them to work at once. Having an underclass of oppressed menial workers will make us even stronger. So let's just take a quick look at what happened there. So we have the Nazareno now that has an additional bonus, and we're going to go ahead and build a colony ship and colonize that while we're watching this. That's going to be a significantly boosted planet thanks to those recovered degenerate Gizureans. So we have 3 armor. You can see the Tikan militia from these poor friendly chatty Tikans. They have raised their militia and they're trying to fight us off. But we have armor and they don't, so that gives us the plus 25% armor breakthrough. We have way more infantry than they do. That gives us the overwhelming odds breakthrough, and this is our native planet type. So the end result of all that is I'm afraid they don't stand much of a chance. So we're going to go ahead and let this complete. Okay, folks, so we have invaded and conquered the independent colony of Manabu. Our victorious forces have completely defeated the enemy. Now we have the choice of the scouring. So with our recent conquest of the colony of Manabu, we can choose whether to implement the scouring. Scouring will grant us an extra tech from this conquest. Some of the existing population will be consumed, providing food to temporarily boost population growth for Gizureans throughout our empire. Our diligent efforts to scour the planet will also no doubt reveal any hidden resource caches. Scouring will also lower happiness for 2 years and dramatically reduce the development level of the colony. It will also harm our reputation, but we are Gizureans, so folks, we're going to scour. So we go ahead and implement the scouring. We got some medical research boost on that, and we got the bonuses from the scouring, which you can see up here. So we now have plus 20% colony population growth for Gizureans empire-wide because we scoured that Tikan planet. And now, what we get to do in addition to that is we've got population policy that we're going to implement, and we're going to go ahead and exterminate the Tikans. As a result of exterminating the Tikans, we now get the breeding world. So we are exterminating foreign populations at our colony Manabu, providing a tasty food source for a new generation of Gizureans. Each breeding world in our empire will provide a cumulative plus 10% Gizurean population growth rate bonus. So we are now scouring these Tikans. We've scoured the Tikans, now we're eating the Tikans and using them to feed our small hatchlings. And the end result of that is that we're getting plus 10% and plus 20%. So we're getting plus 30% empire-wide population growth now because of our scouring and our breeding. Now, the downside of this is that, eventually there will be no Tikans left to use for those purposes. So ideally, what will happen is that, some of our passenger ships will bring people over. And in fact, here we can see 2 million Gizureans already migrating from Sastia 3 to Manabu. So once we've eaten all those Tikans, there will be some wonderful Gizureans to replace them. And I think that is, I think we're also building a colony ship. Oh no, this one is actually the, we've queued a colony ship build, it's not building yet, and I'm afraid I'm out of time for today, folks. So I've had fun playing. I hope you've had fun learning. I hope I've answered between this stream and the stream I did earlier in August, which we have a recording of still on our site. I hope that helps you understand the Gizureans and the Quameno better, and I hope it gets you excited for them. I hope you will join us in our continuing discovery with Distant Worlds 2 of how the original base factions play. We're going to keep upgrading the original Distant Worlds 1 factions that we're adding to the game. We're going to keep upgrading the base game factions too, and improving the game. And like I said, we have an additional official update coming out this Friday, and then the Gazurian and Quameno DLC comes out September 7th. Same price as the Icaro and Daiute DLC. I hope you will all join us. And I'll just put this back up as a reminder. Thank you, everyone. Be well. Take care.